There we go. Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. I am joined today by none other than Ali Campbell. Ali is, as I'm sure you completely understand and appreciate, one of the leading lights in the hypnotherapy field. So I just want to say, Ali, thank you so much for being with us today. I'll put the spotlight on you, and there we go. That's it. There we go. Now we see you, Ali. Lovely.
Oh, wow. You weren't kidding. I've just filled the screen.
I know, but look, come on, your beautiful dulcet tones.
Thank you.
So we can all fall in love with your gorgeous accent. So, Ali, honestly, thank you so much for joining us. It really is truly appreciated. And what I'll do is I'll come down and join you. So there we go. That's it. So we can sort of chat to each other.
That's better.
Yeah, that's it. And obviously the thing is, everybody, you all know by now where the chat box is. I'm just going to click the chat box and make sure that's on. Fabulous. Okay. So if you've got any questions, then drop them in the chat box. But I'm pretty sure that we can also maybe at the end open the floor to questions if you have any burning questions, or if you're shy, put them in the chat box. Okay, so that's fine. But Ali, oh my goodness, so happy to have you. We were so overjoyed when you joined the CMA as you affiliated your training school with the CMA, which is fantastic and very, very much appreciated. So, but what I was wondering, and I've never really had the chance to ask you about, is how did you get started in this field? Where did it all begin? Because it's snowballed into this phenomenal thing that you've built. So can you tell us a little bit about how it all came to pass?
Yeah, of course, Jayney. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll be honest, when we decided to apply for affiliation to the CMA, I wasn't sure you'd have us. So I'm really grateful that you took us on, because at the time we were building this thing that had never really been done before. And although my own hypnotherapy career and face-to-face training career goes back far too long for us to talk about polite company, and a long time, nearly 20 years. If you say it quickly, it doesn't sound quite so long. But when we moved everything online due to COVID, I had always very much huge amount of respect for CMA and what you guys have been doing, and the authentic nature of how you run the organization. I think is just second to none. So thank you for being that beacon of authenticity in a murky pond. Sometimes there are so many accreditation and badges, and you see so you just don't know where you stand. But with CMA, you know where you stand, and that's why. When I set about building something that I wanted to be an industry leader in the fields of NLP and hypnotherapy and life coaching, it was the obvious partnership for us to look towards. So thank you for having me. First of all, where did it all begin? Where did it all begin? Well, you got to cast your mind back about 17 years or 18 years now to I was about 30 years old. Life was not going well. It just hadn't turned out the way I'd expected. I was back living in my parents' spare room. At that time, my dad had passed, so it was my mum's spare room, really. I had about £200 to my name and no prospects whatsoever. And it was a tough time. And I remember sitting by the fire in my mum's living room in Lanark, in Scotland. That was my hometown. Turns out, actually, it was also the hometown of Roberta at the CMA, which was a fun coincidence as well. But I'd been given a book years before by a dear friend, and this book he had credited it was changing his life. He had been riding high. He was a radio DJ. He'd been very successful, and through some silly mistakes, he had ended up homeless. And one day, whilst sitting in the street in London, hoping that somebody would give him some money to pay for a hostel, there was a charity shop across the road, and he noticed this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. And he thought, God, if I ever needed anything, it's that. So he managed to have an extra 20p one day, and he went and bought the book. And all those years later, 1997, my dad passed away. I wasn't in a great place, and he gave me his copy of that book. So that day in Lanark, my 30th birthday, I went and decided that I don't know if there's anything to this personal development thing or not. I don't know. But let's find out. And I went and dug out that old copy of How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I picked it up and I started to read. And I thought, well, if I'm going to read it, I might as well try it. Might as well try and put it into practice, you know? We're never going to know if it's nonsense unless I actually try. I mean, I'm, you know, still a cynical Scot at heart. And, and what that led to was sort of one, I guess some people might call them coincidences after another. But of course, you know, we know, and I can see Heather nodding along and saying, we know there's no such thing as coincidences. What I would now call them alignments. Things started to line up because I went there first. I opened myself up to that space and things started to just kind of line up. So it was a complete accident that I became a hypnotherapist. I went to the dentist one day, and my previous career had been a personal trainer and international athlete. And there I was in the dental surgery, waiting for anesthetic to take effect. And the dentist sort of said, so what are you going to do then? You know, you're not doing anything. You're going to go back to sport? Are you going to go back to PTing? What are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't really know. Actually, truthfully, I don't really know, because the thing was, and he said, well, how about adding hypnotherapy into the mix? Because then you could help people from the inside out and the outside in. Never thought about it. I'd absolutely no idea that this was even a thing. It sounded cool. A couple of days later, a friend phoned me up, and she always had neck pain. And she phoned me up and she said, you'll never guess what? My neck pain's gone. So how come? She said, I went to see a hypnotherapist. I went, oh, here we go again. this is just getting silly. So does this lady you went to see, does she teach? I said, yeah, do you know what? She's just started her first course, is starting in 2 weeks' time. They booked me on it then. And it turned out I was the only person who booked the course. So I first learned hypnotherapy sitting in a little front room in a tiny little terrace cottage in Kouros in Fife, with a lovely lady called Hazel Thompson, who taught me hypnotherapy for the first time. And from there, I got hooked. I was hooked on the power of the subconscious, and the rest is the rest.
Oh my goodness, Ali, that's such an incredible story. It really is. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's interesting, isn't it, how we all come to, you know, whatever healing modality it actually is. And I know that, you know, I can guarantee that each of us in this sort of Zoom room has, you know, probably an equally fascinating set of so-called coincidences and so on. But I think that's absolutely remarkable. So you started, so you did this training with this lovely lady all by yourself. And then what happened after that, Annie?
Well, I started sort of bothering friends and family, you know, like you know the way you do when you've just learned something new and you want to try it out. You're like, hey, do you want to stop smoking? And they're like, no, not really. Go sit there. I'll stop you smoking. No, I really don't want to stop smoking. Sit. You know, let me fix your phobia. I don't want you to fix your phobia. Sit there till I fix your phobia. You know, and it was that whole kind of, you know, it went on like that for a while. But the dentist very, very kindly said, he said, look, you've got a bit of a knack for this. Why don't you use my dental studio when I'm finished for the night? That was incredible. So I could use it on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Nobody wants to see anybody on a Friday night. And I could use it from about 7 p.m. till about 9 p.m. Now, the only thing I hadn't factored in was that the only chair I could put a client in was the dentist chair, right? So literally, it was in Wishaw, in Lanarkshire. Clients would come in and be like, hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, never mind the big light. Let's move that out of the way. And the sharp stuff, just ignore those over there and sit yourself in the big chair. Okay. Comfortable? I mean, it was like a comedy show. But the thing was, I learned from that is I was either too stupid or just in flow to even notice. I didn't even recognize at the time that was a problem. Never entered my head because it was the only chair I had. No, it was only 10 years later, I was talking to a journalist and I told this story and I could see the kind of like the shocked look on their face. I'm like, what? I'm like, you're not worried about like triggering a phobia? You're not worried. I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that. Kindly, I didn't think of it. So I started to get great results. I was fixing phobias and sorting out, anxiety, and people were getting a good night's sleep, and people were losing weight. And one morning, I got a phone call, and Lisa, who's the receptionist, she says, can you get here? It's a Saturday morning, Ali. I'm really sorry, but can you get here? There's a woman who's screaming the place down. She's got a spider phobia, and a spider has just come out from under the skirting board. Right. Yeah, okay. So I gets myself in there, take her into the dental room, right? Close your eyes and do her thing. Sorted out her spider phobia. She comes out and she gave me a big hug. She was the person who first introduced me to the idea that limiting beliefs around money are in my head, not the client's head. You see, when I first started out, I was going to charge £20 for a session. My dentist friend had talked me into making it 95, and I didn't actually think anybody would pay it. I kind of felt like I was getting away with it at £95. And this lady turned to me and she gave me £120 in cash and said, keep the tip for yourself. And what that did was, A, gave me 25 quid more than I was expecting, which, again, as a canny Scotsman, result. But also taught me the lesson that it wasn't that I was getting away with charging that amount. It was people were happy to pay that amount. That was huge in my head. Yeah. Wow. And that's where the phrase doing well by doing good came from. Because I realized then that actually those two things were not strangers to each other, that you could do well for yourself by doing good for other people. Because very often in this healing space, those two things they're not natural friends. You think, I have a gift, I should give it for free. I have a calling, I should give it for free. How can I charge to heal? Well, actually, what I've come to understand is that money is just an energy. It's just a way of storing energy. It's like a battery. It's just that we have so much emotion built up around it from whatever it is in our past, usually. But money is just like a battery. We don't have any emotion about a battery. You don't get emotional if you lose a AA battery. Yeah. But you sure as hell get emotional if you lost a tenner. Now, the thing is that money is just a unit of energy. So if I give a unit of energy of my time, my caring, my skill, and my energy, well, surely it makes sense that that energy will flow both ways, right? And I learned that lesson from that lady way back then. It also happened to be that her friend, she had a friend who was a journalist at the Daily Record in Glasgow. And that spider phobia ended up being a 2-page spread in the Daily Record.
Wow.
Yeah. 2005, that was.
That's amazing.
So, and that was my first piece of press. And if you were to put it, all these years later, if you were to put success, if that's what it is we're talking about, down to any one thing, it's been the ability to get out of and stay out of my own way. To notice opportunities and go with it, rather than allow myself to retreat or get scared or close down. It's staying in that flow state.
Yes.
If that make sense?
I think it makes perfect sense, actually. I really do. And how's everybody else feeling about that? Is that making sense? I see lots of people nodding. Yeah. No, it really, really does. And I think this is actually, it's really interesting, Ali, because one of the things that I teach, since lockdown started last year, as I'm sure you know, we've been jumping online week in, week out to do various tutorials. So, part of this series. And so I've been doing quite a few tutorials on sort of setting your fees. It's not telling people what to charge clearly, but it's actually about the confidence that we need in order to understand. Well, we've got to first of all understand the value of what we offer, the value of the transformation we provide, and then derive our confidence from really deeply knowing that, really, really, really fundamentally within the fiber of our being. And so I think that's what you've just been saying there is so fascinating and so very important for practitioners.
And I think it's also a sense of perspective. It's like, I would be changing someone's life for less than the cost of a haircut.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
Think about it like that. You know, if somebody's going out, you know, every 6 weeks, get their hair cut and coloured, or they're going out for a nice meal, back when we were allowed to do that, or whatever it is that you know, you're able to transform somebody's life for more than you spend a good night out.
Yeah.
That's just nuts when you think about it like that.
It really,
you know,
yeah.
We have a value in the service that we can provide, and because I've got a really great friend who's a musician, and he said, you know, the thing is that every time you do a gig, the promoter tries to beat you up on price, right? It's like, oh, it's only 45 minutes of your time. It's only an hour of your time. He said, no, it's 20 years of practice you're paying for. It's 20 years of practice. It's 20 years of skill. It's 20 years of opportunity cost of not doing something else that I'm now being rewarded for. You know, and he was Van Morrison's guitarist. But if you think about it, it's the same with us.
Mm.
You've been on a personal journey usually to get here, and an academic journey to get here, and a whole load of practical, you know, elements of practice has gone in.
Mm.
You're not just paying for an hour of your time.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And actually a whole chunk of your money that's got you to as practitioners, that gets us to this point, you know, because what I do observe, and I've observed over the last 28 years of running the CMA, is that most practitioners will add, you know, discipline after discipline after discipline. I think that we're all very avid studiers. We're all very avidly keen on improving what we do, and the services that we can offer, and the disciplines and modalities that we can offer to our clients, and or for those of us who are running trainings, you know, like yourself, Ali. It really helps, doesn't it, to build, you know, sort of a portfolio of things that you can offer. Yeah. And that costs, you know, as you quite rightly say, it's not just, you know, it's not just money, but it is our time. It is, you know, many years of study, and all the other things that we sacrifice along the way, because, you know, we do have to be dedicated and so on to learn these disciplines. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I think that's so valuable. Thank you. Really fantastic.
Oh, pleasure. No, absolute pleasure. What's so wonderful now is that with the world going online now, I'm a huge fan of face-to-face. Don't get me wrong. You know, human contact is such a precious and special thing. However, what COVID has done for us in the healing space is that the world is so much more comfortable in an online space now. You know, like the fact that we're all hanging out here, we're all over the world. You know, we're all hanging out here having a lovely conversation. You know, it's the most natural thing in the world, a cup of tea, just to hang out and say hi on a Friday afternoon. Well, what we've managed to do here is we've managed to bring healing or transformation into a convenient space. So clients don't need to travel anymore. They need to have a decent internet connection and find their way to a nice sofa like the one you've got behind you. That's it. That's all I need, and I can work with somebody anywhere in the world.
Yes.
So wherever, you know, we are, I mean, my home is in rural Scotland. I live in the middle of a field. I mean, you can't see another house from our house, right? And my clients are, well, some of them are here, actually. I recognize some names. I've got Carrie is here, I recognize. Paul is here, I recognize. And I'm sure there's quite a few others that I should recognize. Tony's one of mine, I recognize. Vanessa's one of mine that I recognize. Vanessa's in Ireland. I'm fairly sure Carrie's in Inverness. And yet we're having a perfectly normal conversation.
Yeah.
And if the agenda was help, there is no barrier to that.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're looking at building a practice, it doesn't matter where you are geographically anymore.
No. If there is any silver lining, I was having this conversation with somebody just earlier on, actually. If there is, as I had it, and actually with my mentoring students, one of my mentoring students yesterday, you know, I was having that conversation. If there is a slight silver lining to the COVID thing, it is the fact that we've had to embrace, you know, flipping and going online, and you know, it has dramatically opened up our opportunities, hasn't it, to work with people globally and to teach people globally. So you know, it is fantastic. So Ali, obviously, you know, you've spoken a bit about your journey into the beginning parts of your adventures in hypnotherapy, but you mentioned you got that double page spread. Did that actually do a lot for you, and then sort of what happened after that?
Yeah, it did. The phone rang off the hook.
Really?
And Yeah, and it rang off the hook because it was a demonstrable result. It was someone who had been terrified of spiders, and then, hey, there she wasn't. It was proven, and it made a huge difference. It's one of the things that I teach my own students is if you're going to be seeking publicity, case studies lead the way every single time. Absolutely, and I mean this with every ounce of respect, absolutely nobody cares what we think of our own abilities. Yeah. Nobody cares if I say, hey, I'm a pretty decent hypnotherapist. Nobody says if I'm one of the top 6 NLPers in the world. Nobody cares. But they really care if Pip said, hey, Ali changed my life.
Yeah.
Or Ross said, I booked one session with Ali and it made such a difference.
Yes.
You know, or Sally said, best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And especially now, because peer review, social proof, as they call it in marketing speak,
yes,
is where we look for everything. You're going to book a restaurant, you check the reviews.
Of course, yes. Well, before you buy something online, Amazon or wherever.
Absolutely, you click. It's the most pressed button on Amazon is the review button.
Yes. Yes.
And if you're really savvy with something like that, you look for what you're looking for, and then you go across the left and you click the 4 or 5 stars and above, because that's all we're interested in.
That's it.
I mean, nobody clicks the 1-star option to see what it is, do you? You click.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
So that article led to, if I remember correctly, about 150 clients.
Wow.
Coming in my direction all at the same time, which is
that's amazing.
Chaos. That's what
yes.
it was. Chaos.
What do you do with that? Suddenly you've just gone from, this small evening practice to suddenly boom. Yeah. What happened?
Chaos.
How did
chaos. I mean, absolute chaos. I'm not kidding. It was chaos. I mainly started doing house visits because I had nowhere to work from. So I would be in my car toddling around Scotland. And by that point, because it was a spider phobia, I had a tarantula that I used to take with me. So in this little fish tank thing with like bark in the bottom and a little bit of branch, and I had a little mini, the old fashioned mini, old shaped mini, and tarantula would sit in the passenger seat and we'd toddle off around Scotland. And there were two really fun, one fun, one not so fun instance where on one occasion I'm driving along the M74, sort of look across to see how Rosie the tarantula, a chili rose tarantula, so Rosie. Can't see her, and she's not there. And I can't really look for very long, so I'm also driving the car. And I'm like, she's definitely not there. And there she was, sitting on the headrest of the passenger seat. So I quickly pulled out the hard shoulder, got out the car, and of course she got a bit spooked because I was trying to catch her, and she jumped and went under the back seat.
Oh no.
So I'm in the back, legs out the car on the hard shoulder, right? Rummaging around the back, so trying to catch this tarantula, but you can't grab a tarantula because they've got an exoskeleton. So like you're trying to grab an egg, right? Oh. If you put too much pressure, you'll squish them. So there I am, and I'm aware that there's another car has pulled up behind me. And I hear the doors close twice, and I'm sort of aware of 2 figures. And I look, and there's 2 pairs of black boots. I'm thinking, shoot. I look up, can I help you, officer? So this big burly, Scottish policeman goes, is there a problem, son? I said, yeah, I've got a tarantula in the car, and it's just hidden under the back seat. And he one looked at the other and went, a tarantula, he said. I'm like, yeah, chili roast tarantula. She's really hard. Aye, all right. Well, hope you get her soon. And they went back to the car and buggered off. So yeah, there were some capers back in those days.
I'm surprised they didn't say, "Could you just blow into this, please, sir?" I mean, really, you were lucky.
They were taking no chances. There was a big hairy spider in the back of that car. They weren't for finding it out.
Brilliant.
So yeah, there were definitely some capers. I played that piece of press quite cleverly though, because what I did was I had loads of what the 150 people coming to see me gave me loads of case studies, and I kept notes of these case studies, and then I went back to the journalist and said, "Hey, thanks to the Daily Record, all these people have got help." Be quite a cool story to run, don't you think? So they ran it as a follow-up piece with 3 case studies, again 2 pages. There was a little boy that was scared of dogs, so scared of dogs he wouldn't even let his mum open like a hopper window during the summer in case a dog got in. And of course, the picture in the newspaper is him with his arms wrapped around this collie dog, you know, and it's licking his face, you know, and it was all lovely. There was a lady who'd been scared of needles, so scared that her and her husband wouldn't start a family. Of course, the story was that got over a fear of needles, she fell pregnant, and she called the little girl Alison, or Ali for short. Absolutely true. And another lady who had a fear of lifts or enclosed spaces. And we had this picture of her on the tallest lift in Scotland. So that ran as 3 fantastic case studies. Long story short, the big break after that was I had still didn't really know what I was doing. And I had this daft idea that maybe if I helped somebody famous, then maybe they'd say something nice about me. And maybe I could put that in the paper. That might work. So I got in touch with this agent, Star Management in Glasgow, and they kind of fobbed me off, you know, not interested. And I persisted, and they fobbed me off again, and this kept going on for a little while. Until one day, I got a phone call from Carol, and she said, right, I don't know if you can do this or not, but we're in the poo. Can you help us out? One of my clients is house sitting. The problem is that she's lost the keys for the next door neighbour's house. Okay. Problem is the next door neighbour has a cat. The cat's getting hungry. Is there any way you could hypnotise her to remember where she put the keys? Like, yeah, of course, no problem. So at that point, the lady in question was the lead presenter on Loose Women, the TV show on ITV. Her name was Kay Adams. And I went round to Kay's house, hypnotised her. She remembered where the keys were. They were in an old anorak that was hanging up on a shed, peg in a shed. And the agent took me out for lunch to say thank you and put a contract on the table and said, look, I don't want you to work with my clients, but you can obviously do this. So I'd like you to be one of my clients.
Wow.
6 weeks later, I was on MTV in Los Angeles.
My goodness.
Doing a show called Celebrity Fit Club USA for VH1 on MTV.
Wow, my goodness.
Crazy. My clients were people like Warren G, who in the 80s, a song called Regulate, some of you might remember it. Tiffany, I think we're alone now, Tiffany. Debbie Gibson, Screech from Saved by the Bell, Dustin Diamond. Dustin sadly passed away earlier this year, or late last year. And there I am sitting in LA thinking, you're a long way from Lanark now, boy. How did this happen? And the truth is, it happened just by being able to stay in flow, by being able to stay in that space of, I don't know what's around the corner, but let's go find out.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah,
wow.
And it's been much the case ever since. I'd love to tell you there's some kind of marketing genius in the background somewhere, but the truth is there isn't. You know, it's just opportunity presents itself if you stay open to it.
The thing is, though, I think, Ali, from listening to your story and knowing what I know about practitioners that I've observed over nearly 3 decades, is that where I'm seeing the difference is that you very intentionally, you know, so you obviously you got that first press coverage, and then you looked at a way of sort of leveraging that further, and that was obviously very intentional, wasn't it, to grow your practice. Obviously, I guess the fact that the agent was bright enough to realize what they had in you is a very, very lucky thing. But was there anything that, thinking back, was there anything that you did at the time that may have prompted them to want to take you on, or was it something that just strictly came from the agent? Or was there a part of you that thought, actually, do you know what, I could do more of this with these types of people?
Oh, absolutely. I was persistent, I think, is probably tenacious, is probably the right thing. And probably it sort of comes back to something we touched on earlier, is I have always been very happy to prove my work.
Right.
Don't take my word for it. I'll show you.
Yeah.
You know, so if somebody said to me, look, can you really do this? I'll say, sit there and shut your eyes and I'll show you. It's like, just don't take my word for it. And with the agent, it was very much a case of, look, give me a chance to prove it and I'll prove it.
Oh, Fantastic.
And so you sort of became a known, proven quantity, if you like. You know, and that, I mean, is a theme of consistency that runs right through everything that I've ever done, is that sense of being very happy to prove it. So I think if somebody's looking at, you know, how to build a practice, demos of some kind are absolutely, you talk about leverage, that is your leverage fulcrum for anything, is show what you can do. Don't talk about it. Show what you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're very lucky because we have video. I mean, I think we've never ever, I think, you know, sort of thinking out sort of throughout history, marketing now is easier than it ever has been. And you can do the show and tell completely for free. You know, you just whack up a YouTube video, get a video on your website. You know, everybody, I'm always banging on about, you know, get some video on your website above the fold, you know, and all that stuff that I constantly yak on about and so on. But would you agree with that, Ali?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, utilizing video is a good way for people
absolutely, yes. And of course, back in the day when you and I started out, there wasn't such a thing as Facebook.
No.
You know, I mean, I used to start by going around putting flyers on car windscreens. You know, that's how I would graft it out. Now,
me too.
You did.
I did when I first grew my practice. Actually, I was quite. I did all the flyers, but I also did posters on the London Underground and also on the Docklands Light Railway trains.
Oh, that's posh, Jayney. Sorry, that's way too posh for a boy like me. That's far too posh. I'll tell you, about as posh as I managed to get was I got my flyers so that they were printed on gloss art paper, the shiny stuff, because the rain runs off it easier.
That's actually true. That really is true. Yes.
It really is true, right? If you go to flyer windscreens, make sure it's gloss art paper. Otherwise, people are going to come back to this kind of soggy mess and even if they wanted to book you, they
can't read it.
Exactly. They can't really read it. So gloss art paper, gosh, listen to the pair of us, like too old.
Back in the golden days.
When I worked, lads.
Absolutely brilliant. So did you actually, but out of interest, Ali, did you ever get any response from
Not really.
No.
Not really. You maybe put out like 500 flyers and get one phone call or something. You know, I think it was more an exercise in feeling like you were doing something than it actually was proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of, it is almost a way of kind of taking control of your own destiny, because you are actually moving towards your goal, aren't you? By doing whatever it is, you know, it's just a little, I mean, if you think about it from a neurological perspective, it's a little bit of a dopamine squirt, isn't it? It's just that sort of like, well, I'm going to do this. You get your reward, and that then spurs you on to more sort of little dopamine.
I could add in a slight psychological twist to that. And it's like, I felt like I had to suffer for it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I felt like it had to be hard. Like if I hadn't put a good 2 or 3 hours in flyering, I probably didn't deserve a client.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Now that's weird, right? Now, if I had this conversation with one of my American friends, for example, they'd be going, dude, you're crazy. What the hell? But I felt like I really had to graft for it. And you don't. The truth is you just don't.
But I think, don't you think that's very much about, you know, sort of down to one's background? Because, you know, if you come from the kind of background like I did, you know, which is basically, nothing's given, you've got to work really hard, and you know, where life has not always been, you know, has not been easy. It's been, in fact, very, very challenging. And that the idea, you know, we have these scripts, don't we, that we develop from childhood. And so did that sort of play into that kind of mindset for you, do you think?
100%.
Because I know
absolutely 100%.
Yeah, I know it does for me. It's like nothing worthwhile comes easy. So I'm trying
here's the equation, actually. This might help shift people's thinking, because for me, I grew up in a very working class background in Scotland. My dad had worked in the shipyards. My mum was a nurse. You can imagine, you know, that, you know, salt of the earth people, but grafters, you know. And of course, I was brought up with it. Well, there's only really two ways to get on. One is to work longer, and the other is to work harder. You know, and my dad had this phrase, which he used to be like a mantra, and he was like, you know, it was sort of like easy work is hard to find, you know, and you know, hard work's never easy, and easy work's hard to find. I thought, well, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So you may as well just get on with it. And what I came to learn is actually it's programming. It's not truth, it's programming. Actually, especially in our world, we get paid for the difference that we make. That's it. Now, there was a study done a good number of years ago now, and the question was, how is it that someone like Beyonce or Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise gets paid as much as they do, and yet a nurse saving someone's life day in, day out get paid as little as they do? Surely that's not right. Well, clearly that's not right. As a society, it's bizarre what we reward. But I can help you make sense of it. And the formula that they come up with is scope multiplied by scale divided by uniqueness. Now, the scope is how much of a difference can you make? Multiplied by the scale, to how many people? Divided by how many people could make that difference. Now, if you took someone like, let's say Tom Cruise, the scope of the difference that he makes, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and give him 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
On a good day, right? To how many people? Quite a lot of people. So let's maybe give him, I don't know, half the population. Let's give him a 5. So 1 multiplied by 5. How many people can play the part of a Tom Cruise can? Well, you actually go and see a Tom Cruise movie. Well, there's nobody can play the part of Tom Cruise other than Tom Cruise. So it's 1 on the bottom. So you 1 multiplied by 5, you get a 5. Let's take the nurse. What's the difference that the nurse can make? 10. 10 out of 10. Can save your life, can save your child's life. To how many people? Well, even over a 30-year career as a proportion of the world, the global population, it's not very many. So let's give it a 1. So we've got 10. We've still got a bigger number than Tom on the top. But how many people can do that? Well, the truth is that whilst being a nurse is a calling, I think, and they're very, very special people, there's also a lot of them. And so what you end up with is 10 divided by a very, very, very big number. And so the resultant value is a tiny fraction of what Tom Cruise gets. Now, when you come to think of it, you think, well, okay, so what I need to do is I need to make more of a difference. That's gonna be a thing, and that is a big factor in it. And then I need to be able to scale it to as many people as possible. Actually, the exponential multiplier in the equation is uniqueness. How many people can make that difference? How many people can do what you do? There's a word that's missing in there though. It's a perception of uniqueness. You see, I'm constantly amazed that last year, nearly 2,000 people joined my courses. Hypnotherapy, NLP, life coaching, nearly 2,000 people. I don't know why. Because there's an awful lot of life coaches, hypnotherapists, and NLPers out there. So the perception must be that, oh, Ali has something different, something unique, something special. And so people would turn up because they wanted to study with me, not because they wanted to study. People become members of the CMA, not because they want to become a member of an organization, because they want to become a member of the CMA. And so the trick here for somebody setting up their own practice is you need to move people from looking for a hypnotherapist, a Reiki practitioner, a healing modality, whatever it is, to they're looking for you. That's the game. To move the conversation from I'm looking for someone to I'm looking for them. And if you can do that, you will do great.
Yeah. Fantastic. One of the things that I try to encourage people to do when I'm teaching, Ali, I'd love to run this past you and see what you think, is that I'm trying to encourage people to try to get as much coverage as they possibly can, so as much media coverage as they possibly can, because I do believe it is a springboard, as it has been for you. But can you think of any other sort of avenues that you would recommend practitioners pursue in order to sort of position themselves, to be perceived to be able to offer something unique, and to differentiate themselves from everybody else out there? This is something I always talk about. I always talk about, do not commoditize your offering. You are not a commodity. You're not an aromatherapist. You're not a homeopath. You're not an acupuncturist. You are an expert in your own unique niche. So can you sort of point, sort of give us any pointers on your perspective with that, and anything that might help people to kind of conceptualize it?
Yeah, absolutely. First thing, I mean, absolutely. We touched on this earlier. Get yourself online. Get yourself online on social media. I've just clicked a couple of buttons there while you were chatting, Jayney. If I give you an example now, I'm a hypnotherapist. All right, I'm a reasonably well-known hypnotherapist, but I'm not Tom Cruise. My stats for the last 28 days: people reached 4,270,407. People who've engaged with my posts on social media. So an engagement is someone who's commented, liked, or shared. 114,225. Now, 4 and a bit million people. That's more people than watch primetime TV in the UK now.
Yeah.
I'm just a hypnotherapist from Glasgow. So we're talking about leverage.
Yes.
There's your platform right there. Mm. Now, I can tell you that exposure has cost me nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, so what I would do, I would do a couple of things if I were just starting out again. I'd set up a Facebook page. Don't worry about Twitter and Pinterest and all these things. They don't convert. Facebook and Insta, set up a page, not your personal profile. That's for your wedding pictures and your holiday snaps and whatever. Keep that to yourself. A business page. And then I would do a bunch of things. There's 3 types of posts, and you've got to play them in the right way to get them to work. Now, this is inside track stuff. Don't tell anybody I told you, right? And the only reason I can tell you, the only reason I know this is because my page is so big that I have my own account manager at Facebook. So the way Facebook now works, the magic word within Facebook is engagement. Facebook is looking to reward people being engaged in what you're talking about in the conversation. So if you post something and nobody's interested, Facebook goes, nobody interested in that, we'll not show them it again. If you post something that people are interested in, because Facebook's model relies on people being on the platform, Facebook are going to promote that to the ends of the earth. First thing you have to realize with Facebook is that you are not Facebook's customer. You are Facebook's product. Facebook sells access to us. And so the longer they can keep us on the page, the more valuable that advertising is. Now, that's not unusual. That's the same way as Coronation Street is the most expensive TV show to advertise in, because loads of people watch it, and they watch it week in, week out. So it's the same model. But Facebook rewards engagement. So what you want to do is there's 3 P's to Facebook making it work. Profound, personal, and promo. Personal stuff. It's called social media for a reason. You're building a relationship with your audience. So you must post things that are not deeply personal, but that give someone a bit of a window into your life. Because I would go and see Jill, or I'd go and see Seema or Sue, because they seem cool. I like the way they go about their day. Now, the personal stuff doesn't have to be, it can be silly as well. If you look at my posts, most of them are taking the pee out myself. Or I've got stuff like one of my best posts ever. It was seen by about 3 million people. Was 2 pots of porridge on the cooker. You see, me being Scottish, I like my porridge the proper way, with water and salt. Now, Claire, also Scottish, but a bit younger, She likes her porridge with milk and sugar. 2 pots of porridge. What's the correct way to make porridge? Discuss. Amazing what people will engage with. Ali's right with the water and salt. No, Claire's right. Actually, salt and sugar is the best way. I make mine with... Now, if I'm being a cynical marketer for just a second, I don't care what those 500 people or 600 people or 1,000 people think about my porridge. It's engagement. I'm just seeing it purely in Facebook terms. It's engagement. It's people engaging. It's tricking Facebook. It's making Facebook think, hey, this guy's really popular. Facebook doesn't come and say that I'm not talking about hypnotherapy. I'm talking about porridge. Cheesy beanos. How do you make cheese and beans on toast? You know, any nonsense like that. It's amazing what gets people engaged. So personal, profound quotes. Everyone, it's as old as the hills, but people still love a good quote. You save them to your little, folder of quotes. You share them with your friends. You like them. You comment on them. They love a good quote. But those 2 things don't make you any money. But what they do is they increase your engagement. Now, think of it like this. Making Facebook work is a lot like going sailing in a sailboat. You can have a great boat. You can have a great big sail. You can have a brilliant skipper and a brilliant crew. But if you've got no wind, you're not going anywhere. Simple. Engagement is the wind. So what you do is you whip up a good old breeze with personal and profound, and you'll start to see that they start to gain traction. If you're doing it properly, they'll get a little bit more each time, a little bit more each time. And then you'll get one out of the blue that will just catch people's imagination. And suddenly it'll have, 3 times as many comments, likes, or shares on it. Then hoist your sail quickly. Hoist your sail quickly is promo. Tell people what you can do for them. Now, I'm offering, it's June madness, so sessions are 3 for 2. It's 2 for 1 haircuts. I don't know, whatever it is you're going to offer, put out a promo and make it such that people can book really nice and easily. Hook up something like Calendly or Acuity so that somebody can just literally say, oh, I quite fancy that. And they can pop their details in, just like you did to register for the Zoom call, put in your name, put in your email address, book into your diary in a convenient time, job done. You will be astonished at the conversion rate you could get off a really simple campaign like that.
Gosh, that's absolutely solid gold, Ali. Thank you. That is absolutely mind-blowing. Thank you so much.
It's playing the Facebook algorithm. You've got to... Oh, and the other thing is never, ever, 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 ever hit the boost button. You know that really tempting boost button that says you can advertise your business to 20,000 people near you if you just pay £10 to Mark Zuckerberg? Yes. And he'll make it all happen by magic. Never touch that button. It should say, donate money to the Mark Zuckerberg Benevolent Fund. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. Ali, could you explain to everybody why it doesn't work? Because I think a lot of people don't know that. So if you can explain a little bit why that is.
So the big fancy word is algorithm. All algorithm really is a set of rules. Now, we would all be connected by threads, if you like. What Facebook has is it has about 50,000 data points on every single one of us. So Facebook knows what you do. They know when you use the platform. They know where you shop. They know if you shop. They know whether you comment, you like, you share. They know who your friends are. They know more about us than we do. So if you build your practice the way I've just suggested, what you're getting genuine, authentic connections. So if you comment, like, and share, that will be seen by people who are like you. So Facebook might say, right, Vanessa, have got 50,000 data points on Vanessa, and Vanessa has commented on this thing, and Sue's a lot like Vanessa. Yeah, there's a lot of data points that cross over between Sue and Vanessa. So probably Sue would like this as well. And so they show it to Sue. If you hit the boost button, you would literally be as well opening the window and throwing a paper airplane out into space. It just goes to anybody and everybody. Now, they can tell you that you can refine it by targeting. Doesn't work.
No.
If you really want to refine it by targeting, I can come back, Jayney, I'm more than happy to. I can come back and do a whole tutorial on how to use Facebook targeting.
That would be great.
Yeah, happy to do that, because although I said that the 4.5 million people or whatever it was cost nothing, in the courses part of my business, and this is something else that just, I know we're a little bit tight for time, but what we've done, I mean, we've probably, and this is another trick, because most of us, when we get started, we don't have huge marketing budgets. Now, I'm very lucky now that I do, but I'm also come back to that theme of I'm also a canny Scotsman, so I don't like spending it. Do you know that last year, when we booked just under 2,000 academy courses, and there was about 10 and a bit thousand masterclass courses, and my total marketing budget was less than £10,000.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Now, what I actually did was I spent probably £500,000 on Facebook last year. So you think, well, how does that work? You said you spent less than 10, and now you said you spent £500,000. That's a big difference. Yeah, I spent the same money over and over and over and over and over again. So because lots of the guys here have been through our process, when you buy a masterclass from me, which is £47, all you're doing is covering my ad costs. I make no money from that. Not been, and I don't want to. But if I spend £47 and I get someone on my masterclass, I have the opportunity to hopefully impress that person, to prove my work. Back to that theme from earlier again, I get 6 weeks to show you what I can do. It's an audition. I'm auditioning for you for 6 weeks.
Yes. And
at the end of that 6 weeks, I say, hey, listen, if you'd like to maybe take this further, here's something you can do to take it further. But I put 10,000 people into masterclasses. It didn't cost me a penny. So if you think about it, if you could work out some kind of way that you could make your advertising have an immediate payoff for you, and then just keep recycling that money, you have literally a limitless marketing budget. I can tell you this year we've spent about that £500,000 already.
Yes, yes. I don't doubt it, because I have friends who are spending that same sort of amount of money, and
but are they getting it back?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Are they getting it back?
Yeah, well, I'm sure you know of people like Kim Constable and various others. Robert Cheek's doing the same, and of course Chris Beat Cancer and all the rest of it. Their Facebook budgets are absolutely astronomical. But the point is, it's all about the churn. And
totally.
The first time I ever came across somebody who said, "Oh, my Facebook ad budget is," it was some years ago actually. It was a good sort of probably about 8 years ago. She was saying that her budget was about 300,000, and I was like, "Oh, this is before I knew about how the game works." And I was like, "Doesn't that freak you out? Spend the thought of spending that much money in your advertising?" She said, "Look," and a bit. Kind of similar but different to you. She said, "Listen," she said, "this is genetic. Her name is Sherry Rosenthal. She's a nice Jewish girl." And she said, "Look," she said, "it's genetic." She said, "Would I be spending money if I knew I wasn't going to make it back?" She said, "This is not a risk. This is a calculated decision. It's just a cost of doing business."
Exactly.
So when you hear these astronomical fees, the thing is, it's all about really taking those calculated risks, isn't it? It was not a risk, it's a calculation. Sorry.
Yeah, the lovely thing about Facebook and doing it that way is your risk is maybe a £5.
Very small, yeah.
Tiny. I mean, literally, we still test my ads with £5. Right. You just do not need to spend big money and then of course what you do is you find a model that works and you scale it. All you need to do is just find that sweet spot that works and just keep running that. And we ran my NLP ads and videos and stuff I'll give you a laugh actually. We had some lovely videos that we'd done, which were for face-to-face courses, face-to-face taster days. And went into lockdown and of course had to cancel all of those or I can't remember how many dozen there were around the UK, but we'd cancel them all. But we couldn't film any new videos because everything's in lockdown. So we decided that we'd use the same videos. And I went into a quiet room at home, and I got this microphone, and I voiced, live on Facebook for 6 weeks. Live on Facebook for 6 weeks. And we edited the sound. So instead of saying live with Ali in Glasgow, it said live on Facebook for 6 weeks. It's the same video. If you watch the end of the video, the lips don't match up with the sound. Right?
Brilliant.
And it looks like one, you know, these adverts that you see that they were very obviously made in Europe and then they get dubbed into English. Like, it looks like that if you really pay attention. Nobody paid attention. We sold 10,000.
No, well, isn't that brilliant? That's absolutely fantastic. It really is. I mean,
the lesson there is staying out your own way. That could have been a showstopper.
Yes, yes. Yeah, exactly. It's very interesting because, you looked at what was happening with lockdown and you immediately pivoted. We did the same. And there are various other people out there who've done exactly the same. Just before Christmas, we had Rebecca Lockwood on. Do you know Rebecca? Yeah, she came on and she was anticipating, and I know many of you in the group will know this. The beginning of last year, she was anticipating doing 60,000 that year because she was doing face-to-face trainings in NLP. So, but she does obviously a very different target market to you. And anyway, she closed out the year most unexpectedly at doing 260,000, which for her at a very beginning stage in her trainings was absolutely phenomenal. But it really is doable, everybody. And, and it's not something that is just available to certain particularly blessed or blessed individuals. It just is a case, I think, as you've so amply shown, Ali, I think it's very much a case of if you've got the will to do it, there's a lot of information out there, and you've shared so brilliantly and so generously today about just some of the things that we can be doing to get going.
I would love you to take the thoughts away, not of like, some people are gifted and some people have, it's all right for them. I would like you to take the thought away of, God, if Ali can do it, so can I. Because honestly, I'm not that talented, and I just work really, really hard. I'm not that bright. I'm not that talented. But if I can do it, I mean, absolutely, so can you. And that's the story of my life. I mean, I've written 5 international best-selling books. I've got no qualifications in English. It's like, if I can do it, so can you, for sure.
It's about having that will to succeed, isn't it? It's about mindset and confidence and will, I think, ultimately.
Yeah, and back to the start, getting out of the way and staying out of the way. We are our own worst nightmare. I remember vividly the day that my team and I were on a call, and I'm in Scotland and it's March, and lockdown is rumored to be happening. And we got on a call and said, what are we going to do? And some people said, well, let's just pull up the drawbridge, let's cancel everything, let's just sit it out. And some, and I was thinking, well, let's remember we're here to be of service. There's a lot of people need help right now. How can we be of service this year? And the marketing guys are going, I don't know what this clown's talking about. What do you mean being of service? I'm talking about KPIs and cost per acquisitions or whatever. And I'm saying, how can we be of service? And that was our intention going into 2020, was how can we be of service? Well, it turned out we were $2 million of service. We sold $2 million worth of courses last year.
Beautiful.
That's the equation of doing well by doing good. But the intent was, how can we serve this year?
Fabulous. Yes. It's very interesting, Ali, to echo that. When lockdown hit, we looked at, obviously, when lockdown hit, we cried for 24 hours, as did everybody else. And then we thought, hang on a sec, we have to put our big girl knickers and big boy pants on and get on with it. And I thought, okay, the reason we had our big cry was because we suddenly thought, God, we look after all these members and these people are going to lose their livelihoods. This is the thing that really, really, really made us go, oh my gosh, Roberta and I were sort of burning the midnight oil. What are we going to do to save people's livelihoods? So we thought, okay, fine. Well, the only thing we can do is to jump on board. We'd already developed a practitioner training program, a blueprint practice development thing. And we were just about to launch it, funnily enough. And we thought, what do we do? What do we do? And we just thought, and we thought, do you know what? We cannot, in any conscience, actually sell that program, because these are people, we can't sell what is going to be the thing that's actually going to save people's businesses. What we actually have to do is we have to give it away, and we did. And so that was what started off these Friday afternoon tutorials. And so we deconstructed the course, and we just gave it bit by bit by bit, week after week.
Amazing.
And I think it was the fact that we were always there, and I think also the fact that we were attacking, the government's position on not allowing practitioners to work, and calling everybody massage parlors and all the rest of it. And anyway,
I remember.
Oh yeah, I know. Everybody, we all went through that very painful time. But anyway, we got the government to concede. We got the government to change the legislation, and we continued to offer these tutorials. And so we did it because we just felt that it needed to be done. But the upshot was that the CMA grew by, and is still continuing to just grow at this exponential rate. And I do use the word exponential quite deliberately, because it is a word, it's it's an equation. But my goodness, the upshot of
wait till you see the spreadsheet we've got ready to send to you. You're talking about exponential rate. You wait. We've got about 700 new members to send you. I must say, everybody, so what Ali does, and Ali, we haven't even had time, and I know that I can't call on your good graces for the rest of the day, much as I would love to, but we haven't even touched on how you built your training school. So maybe, if it's all right with you, can I bring you back at some point to talk? Yeah, of course you can. I'm more than happy to.
And the Facebook stuff, that would be brilliant.
More than happy to.
But just so everybody knows, is that Ali runs this incredibly successful training, as you've obviously realized from what he's been saying so far. And what he very generously does is he pays the first month's CMA student membership for his students. And we get these Excel spreadsheets through from Claire, don't we? And we're just like, what? How many students have you got?
I know, they've got like 400 and 600 on it. We
couldn't believe. First one we got was 600 odd. It was actually 600 students who were like, whoa, okay.
Just you wait. I think we've got one to go to on Monday. You watch out for that one. That's going to be a whopper.
Can't wait. No, the thing is, Ali, it's and actually looking at some of the some of the comments and whatnot, it is all about being of service, as you rightly say. That's it. And it's about being genuine. It's about being kind. It's about realizing that there are needs that we can meet. So in closing, does anybody have any questions? I can see that some people have actually messaged me directly saying, how can they get to, so do you do one-to-ones still, Ali, or is it just all the teaching that you're doing at the moment?
I do occasionally. I do sometimes do one-to-ones. Right. My schedule tends to be crazy, because what we've not talked about is what we did. I said earlier with Facebook, you find a model that works. Well, what we've done within my business is we've now taken that same philosophy. So it's not just me anymore.
Yeah.
So we promote 5 courses for me. But then we also have signed one of Europe's top nutritionists, in Amanda Hamilton, for women's wellness and nutrition academies. We were Richard Knight for psychic development and tarot, which is, the number of people looking for help, direction, guidance, certainty. We've just signed 2 massive names in the United States, who Angie Bannicky, who's the top tarot reader in America. And Kelsey Patel, who's the top Reiki person in America. So and they're all feeding into the CMA. Every single course feeds into, they get a student membership with the CMA, because I absolutely recognize that as being the piece. It's being of service, being kind, being of help, and the value from your CMA membership it's just incredible. It's like it's nothing else. So every single student, no matter where they are with us, gets the first membership paid for the CMA. So, and that's going to be thousands and thousands of people. So.
Yeah, and it means the world to us, Ali. Honestly, your support and your endorsement there is just absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
If people want to get hold of you, and for training, if they would like to come on the courses, which I'm sure literally all of us do immediately, if not sooner, what's the best way of actually contacting you or the organization? How would you like people to do it?
Dead simple. Drop a little note to help@alicampbell.com.
Right, let me pop that in the, let me just pop that in for everybody, sorry.
Thanks, Jayney.
Yeah.
Just help
So help
at alicampbell.com. And that will come into Claire, Amy, Camellia, Henrietta. One of them will pick it up. It used to be just me. Now there's a whole team.
Yes.
It's, there we go.
Well, you can't run something like this just by yourself. You know, you really do, especially if you're bringing on all of these other amazing trainers. I mean, what I have to say, everybody, is that Ali sent me some sneaky peeks behind the scenes. And oh my goodness, I cannot believe the people you've got lined up. I mean, I've known Amanda Hamilton for many, many years, and I just completely always vouch for her. She's just fantastic. So, but you know, the other ladies that you've got, actually, one of the ladies, I think, was filming her course. Tell me,
you're going to get me in trouble, Jayney.
You name drop again, because it's so impressive.
One of our newest tarot course is being filmed in Orlando Bloom's house in Malibu, and it's hilarious because the connection. If you're a Chicago PD fan, one of the lead actresses is Sophia Bush. Yeah. And so Sophia Bush is, so I find myself, you know, on this video call, and Angie says, "What do you think of this setup?" And I said, "Well, yeah, it's okay, but can you move the lamp?" She doesn't really like it. It's really expensive. So well, can we? And we're adjusting this sort of thing. I don't know where she is. Anyway, she says, "Look, Ali, I can't really mess about with the furniture too much because it's Orlando Bloom's house." Like, okay. Then in the background, there's this voice that I sort of vaguely recognize. Sophia Bush pops her head around the corner and says, "Ali, we're trying to organize the lighting. What do you think of the lighting?" I'm like, this has just gone weird. So we've got Sophia Bush doing the kind of set organization for Angie's tarot thing. Now, the thing is that I'm not sure Orlando knows that we're using his house because he's currently in Prague filming a movie. So it's all a little bit weird as to whether he actually knows that that these two are Sophia looks after his house for him. Did
they just blag their way in, you know, through the housekeeper to say, "Hello, we're here to film"?
Well, it's the house that he used to share with Miranda Kerr, his ex-wife, and it's a house that Katy Perry won't set foot in because it's his house with the. So you can imagine, right? So someone house sits it for him, and we are kind of borrowing it. I think is probably the best way to think of it.
Everybody, you are on your absolute honor not to tell Orlando Bloom that anybody is in his house right now, okay?
Next time you see him down the pub, lips are sealed, right?
Okay, so look, Ali, as much as we would love to keep you all day, I just want to go through some of the comments. Ross, our lovely Ross Beckley, has said, "Oh, by the way, everybody, Ross is recruiting at the moment. She wants to recruit CMA massage practitioners and therapists." Okay, so there was a thing in the CMA newsletter this week about there. She is. Hi, Ross. Hello. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put everybody on gallery. That way we can all see each other. So Ross, if you could just give a wave. There she goes. Yes. Thanks, Ross. So yeah, so have a look at the newsletter this week if you're looking to go and work in the most glorious retreat in France. Carol says it's been so lovely to hear your experience. Thank you so much. Ross says thank you so much. Sally says how inspirational. Evelyn says I trained with Ali in hypnotherapy and now doing his NLP course. It's a fantastic training. Best thing I did last year. Ali's so authentic and generous. Yes, he truly is. He's just amazing.
Thanks, Evelyn.
And Tony also trained with you. Hi, Tony. He says, I train with Ali for hypnotherapy and now have my own practice. Everyone have a great week. Thank you, Jayney and Ali. Thank you. Charlotte Nightingale. Oh, Charlotte, thank you. I got an email from you and I need to get back to you. So I haven't missed it, but Charlotte says, brilliant session. Thank you. Jill, our lovely Jill Suarez says, thank you. Thank you so much, Ali and Jayney. Eric says, training NLP with Ali. He's the best.
Thanks, Eric. Life's treating you well. I think you're in Portugal, if I remember correctly, from our Facebook Live session. So I hope life's treating you well there.
Brilliant. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, look, Ali, I just want to say thank you so much. As I said, you know, we could easily keep you all day, but we really mustn't. So,
happy to come back anytime, Jayney. I really appreciate you and everything you do. So happy to come back anytime at all.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. Let's have a round of applause for Ali, everybody. I mean, you know, I know you can't necessarily hear you because you're probably all on mute still, but we can see you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Lots of love. Thanks, Ali. Take care.
See you soon. Bye for now. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.